Officials at Virginia Tech say they have located missing mental health records of gunman Sung-Wee Jo. The student killed 32 people back in April of 2007 when he went on a rampage through a dorm and an academic building and eventually killed himself.
Video of a shooting outside of a corner market in West Philadelphia happened just before 9 a.m.
A gunman opens fire at a vocational school for adults in Finland, killing 10 people before shooting himself.
A Florida community is reeling after a deadly mass shooting in a popular gay nightclub left 50 dead and 53 wounded.
There's this kind of person we've all seen, or maybe even felt like. Someone who is angry, but you wouldn't know it. They hide the anger pretty well. They're tired in a way that sleep doesn't quite fix. They are sharp, they are really smart people, but they always feel overlooked. They've quietly given up. They don't believe in anything anymore. Not politics, not God, not even other people. The only thing that still matters to them is winning. Even if it's brief, even if it's just enough to feel real for a moment, just enough to prove they exist. This episode is based on Franco Berardi's book, Heroes, Mass Murder and Suicide. It's a difficult read, but not because it's confusing. It's difficult because it forces you to confront the idea that these horrific acts, mass shootings, suicide, terrorism, are symptoms of the same sickness. A society that has lost its meaning, where human life is cheap and winning is everything. This episode was meant to be a book review of Heroes, but I don't think I can pull that off. What it does, chapter after chapter, is take these real-life tragedies, mass shootings, suicides, acts of terror, and first zooms in on the individual behind them, who they were, what they believed, what they left behind. And just when you think it's going to be a profile of just one person's madness, it zooms out slowly, carefully. It starts to trace the outline of the culture around them, the media they consumed, the pressures they felt, the economic realities they were born into. And eventually you start to see that these were not isolated explosions of violence. They were symptoms, they were messages, they were warnings. And the deeper you go, the more disturbing the patterns becomes. Just to be clear, I'm not here to excuse anything. I'm not pretending to be a psychiatrist or to fully understand what goes through the mind of someone who commits acts this horrific. We will never know why James Holmes walked into a crowded cinema in Aurora, Colorado, dressed like the Joker and opened fire. Or why Pekka Eric, a Finnish student, carried out a school shooting in 2007 while wearing a shirt that said, "Humanity is overrated." It's disturbing. It's sickening. The fact that there are people, fellow humans, walking amongst us, quietly plotting things like this for weeks, sometimes months. That's a terrifying thought. And when it happens, the loss is unimaginable. I mean, the victims, their families, the communities. This kind of violence leaves wounds that do not heal. So, who exactly is Berardi talking about? I like to call him the neoliberal anti-hero. Is the very specific kind of person Berardi sees in mass shooters as societal students. Someone isolated by constant competition and driven by this desperate desire to be noticed. He's not just tired of life, he's kind of bitter. He doesn't just feel unseen, he feels humiliated. He isn't just unhappy, he's quietly angry about his unhappiness. And when the attention he believes he deserves never arrives, he chooses spectacle. Violence becomes his message, his revenge, his last attempt to prove to the world he was here. For example, Berardi talks about Sung-Wee Jo, who mailed a manifesto to NBC News before killing students at Virginia Tech. Cho's message wasn't political, it was personal. He felt humiliated, unseen, and angry. Wanted people to know he existed, even if he wouldn't be around afterwards to see it. That's the logic Berardi sees repeating over and over again. But here's the thing Berardi is saying. You see, people like Cho don't just appear from nowhere. They grow up inside something Berardi calls semio-capitalism. I know it sounds fancy and complicated, but the idea behind it is pretty simple. Semio-capitalism is capitalism built around images, signs, and attention, instead of just money or products. It's Instagram likes, it's the viral posts, it's online followers. It's the pressure we feel to constantly be visible, successful, performing, because if you're not being noticed, you feel like you don't exist. It's capitalism in our heads and emotions, not just in our wallets, basically. Berardi argues this new system doesn't just make us feel anxious or tired. We all know that. It makes some people feel invisible and worthless. For someone like Cho, who already felt unseen, life becomes a battle for attention at all costs. He believed being noticed, even violently, was better than being forgotten entirely. The deeper point is, semi-capitalism is creating a culture where attention is life or death, literally. And until we understand it, these tragedies won't stop. In July 2012, James Holmes entered a crowded movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. He was dressed as the Joker, the villain from Batman. Without saying anything, he threw tear gas into the audience and began shooting. In just a few minutes, 12 people were dead and many more injured. But there's something strange here. Holmes didn't just want to hurt people. He wanted to put on a show. He chose a character from a movie, a figure known for chaos, for confusion. But why? Maybe because Holmes didn't see life as real anymore. Maybe to him, reality felt fake or empty, like it was not part of the world everyone else lived in. Dressing up as the Joker was not random. It was a way to merge fiction and reality, to turn his violence into something unforgettable, something symbolic. Holmes also left behind detailed notes, like a kind of manifesto, if you will. This wasn't just a confession or explanation. It was his attempt to control his own story, to shape how people remembered him. When your life feels meaningless, controlling the story around your death can seem like the only meaningful act left. Violence wasn't just violence for Holmes. It was his final attempt to exist in a world that made him feel invisible. This was his way of ensuring nobody could forget him, even if he would never be there to see it. So why does this matter to you? Why does Berardi's idea matter to someone who would never dream of violence? Berardi isn't just talking about mass shooters or violent people. He's talking about all of us. He's asking how living in a world obsessed with being noticed quietly shapes the way we think, the way we feel and act, even if we never become violent. Maybe you felt it too, the stress of trying to be seen, or the emptiness when nobody notices you. Maybe you know that quiet pressure of constantly proving you're valuable, always showing you're successful, always comparing yourself to others. You might never explode into violence. God, I hope you're not a violent person, whoever is listening to this. But that feeling of loneliness or quiet desperation still lives inside many of us. That's why Berardi matters. He's warning us that the same pressures that create extreme violence are also making regular life feel harder, colder, and less meaningful. It's not only about extreme cases like James Holmes. It's about recognizing how the same systems touches our own lives, quietly shaping us without us noticing. I don't even know how to end this episode. This is nothing like anything I've talked about before. I've always struggled to understand why senseless violence like mass shootings or bombings or random acts of terror happen. It always feels impossible to make sense of. But reading this book, Heroes, was the first time I came across someone who actually tried to explain it. Not with like conspiracy theories or like moral panic, but by looking closely at the world these people come from. A world we all live in. A world where everything is fast, competitive, disconnected. A world where being invisible feels worse than being hated. A world where some people feel so erased that they choose destruction just to make a mark. I'm not saying I fully get it. I don't think I'll understand it fully. I don't think anyone really can understand it. But Berardi gave me a lens to see this stuff differently, to at least start asking better questions. Because anytime this violence happens, people always ask like the cliche questions of, oh, what's wrong with them? you know? They want to look into like their politics or the kind of things they liked on Twitter. And it's just like, but I feel like the better question to ask is what kind of environment creates this in the first place? And maybe that's where I'll leave it. Not with like a clear answer, because I don't think anybody can answer that question, but with like a shift in how I see things. Because once you see it, it's hard to unsee. Thank you for listening. And as always, you can check out other episodes in the library. You can give this show a rating and follow the TikTok and YouTube channels. Links are going to be in the description down there. Stay safe out there.